Hi, I'm Danny and these are my Diecast Disasters. In this video I'm going to be customizing a Matchbox super fast 4x4 open back truck. These were produced from 1982 until 2001. This one appears to be the 1983 until 1985 version. It was yellow, some 4x4 stickers on it and a number 24 on the door, and it had a black roll bar, a foil on the roof, and a couple of spare tyres on the back, so a rally version, I guess. Taking a closer look at this example, it's very play worn. Most of the paint has been rubbed and chipped off. The tyres are really worn out. The roll bar is pretty much completely gone. There's a little scrap of it left. All of the versions of this little truck had this hideous red windscreen. So we'll start our customization by taking the truck apart. There's only one rivet on this model and a big fat tab at the front of the car. There's no interior in this model. There's the little remaining scrap of black plastic from the roll bar. With the truck taken apart, I strip the paint off of the body with some poly stripper. I then give it a tidy up with the wire brush on my rotary tool, removing the oxidation and any remaining scraps of paint. I'm just going to make a couple of quick masks to go on the side of the car later on. I stick on my strip of masking tape. Then I use a nice sharp craft knife to cut out my mask. Fortunately, I don't have to be too precise with this one, as it's going to be a rusty old beater of a truck anyway. Once I've cut out a mask for each side of the truck, I can pull them back off again, and I'm going to stick them on this sheet of styrene for later. I'm not going to have anything on the roof of my truck, so I'll fill in this big square hole. I start by putting a piece of masking tape on the inside. Now I'm going to mix up some quick setting epoxy putty, and I'll fill the hole. I also fill the big round hole in the deck. This is nice fast setting putty, and after about 10 minutes is set as hard as a rock, and I can file and sand it to smooth. I'm going to be getting rid of that horrible red windscreen, so I'm going to be wanting to put an interior into the truck. Here's one I've harvested from my large die-cast wreckage pile. It's got a cool bench seat in it, so I think that suits an old ute like this. Moving on to the base now. I have to drill out another couple of rivets to take the suspension plate off. I give this a clean and strip the paint off of the bottom of it. It gets a clean up with the wire brush. I also spend a little bit of time cleaning up these rivet posts so that the suspension plate will go back in a bit easier. So taking a look at the two parts of the truck together, you can see there's this great big empty gap in the front where the motor would be, so I'm just going to put a couple of pieces of styrene in there. I also make some short suspension struts. These don't go all the way down, but you won't see them hidden behind the wheels. It'll just look like the top of the suspension struts. I'm going to make a little replacement front windscreen. I'm just going to make a template from the original windscreen, so I stick a piece of masking tape on it and then cut it out. I can then peel this off and stick it on my piece of clear styrene here and cut out a replacement windscreen. There, that's not looking too bad. I can put that away for later. Now to start painting the truck. I start by putting a rust effect all over the body of the car. You can see how I do this in some of my other videos. Next I use some liquid mask to paint around where I'd like some rust chipping effects to be. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry, this footage, but you get the idea. I also mask off the deck with a little bit of tape. I then give it a coat of yellow paint. I put my masks on the side and then I paint it red. Also added another couple of thin stripes over the bonnet and the roof. It was then given a very light airbrushing of thinned down white paint to give it a faded appearance. I can now take off my masking from the deck, and then I use an old brush to remove the liquid mask, exposing the rust texture underneath. to make the door panels stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to apply some pin washers to the panel lines. I'm just using a dark toned wash. Once I'm happy with my panel line washes, I can move back to the base of the car. I start painting it with a base coat of black. It's then given a coat of light silver. I apply a black wash over this, and while it was still wet I added some rust washes. This looks a little bit odd when it's wet, but it gives quite a nice rusty, dirty appearance once it's all dried. I want to put some things on the deck of my ute. I'm going to start with these drums here. I give them a primer of white. I know this looks blue here, but it was white primer. I then painted them blue and gave them a thinned down coat of white to give them a faded appearance. I'm now going to paint on a few rust effects. My piece of tape has run out of stick. I've also got this pile of sacks I'm going to use. I've stuck them on the end of a stick with a little piece of blue tack. I'll give them a coat of white primer. I detail them with some blue stripes, maybe they're sacks of cement, and then they were given a wash. And finally, for the deck of the truck, some lumber. I've cut this out of some basswood sheet. I then give it a sepia toned wash and dry brush it with some black. The interior was painted brown and then given a medium tone wash. And the old worn out wheels, I'm going to replace them with these new ones. These are off of a Hot Wheels. I give the rims a paint job before I put them on. So here is the body of the car with the windscreen glued in place. I've used a tiny amount of the Starbond super glue to glue it in place as it doesn't go very white. There's a link to get this down below in the description. Also use a small amount to glue the interior in place. And so with that, all of our parts are ready to go back together. Here we can take a look at them all laid out. The wheels were painted dark steel and then given a little bit of rust and a wash. So all I had to do was put the car back together. Before we take a look at our finished 4x4 open back truck, let's just take a moment to look back and be reminded of what we started with. A very rough looking old example. Most of the paint is gone. The roll bar and spare wheels from the back are gone. The windscreen is totally worn out. And the wheels also are worn out and scruffy looking. So let's see how it looks after our custom makeover. And here it is. I've tried to make it look like an old rusty farm ute. It's got its red and yellow paint job, chipped paint with the rust showing underneath. It's had the old wheels replaced with some newer ones, some detailing here and there, and it's got some rusty old drums, some sacks of cement and some lumber. They are probably off to do a bit of work around the farm somewhere. So I hope you like how it came out. You can let me know what you think in the comments. And now I'll take a moment to say a big thanks to everyone for the awesome comments and likes on my videos, and say a big welcome to my new subscribers, and as always an extra special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to become a channel Patreon, you can check out the link in the description below. Thanks heaps for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.